excited to be able to meet Irish rally legend Rosemary Smith for a few words. Hi, Rosemary. Great to meet you. How are you today?
I'm very well, thank you. Really well.
You've just turned 80 and you still seem busy as ever. Are you ever likely to slow down?
Well, I think other things will slow me down. It won't be me, it'll be the age aspect and the fact that, once you get to 80, you're meant to be an old lady and you're meant to be all crinkly and crumbly, and I hope I'm not that yet. And, you're meant to, but no, when I was asked to do the Formula One drive, I mean, that was only last May, and I jumped at it straight away. I said, yeah, of course, why not? It never dawned on me to say no. It just never dawned on me.
You've won more trophies than I could possibly remember, some for outright rally wins. Which is your most memorable win?
I would think the East African Safari Rally, which was really difficult, very difficult. And it went on for days and nights and days and nights and days. And we were to have 24 hours between two legs of it. But we were so late and the mud was so bad that when we got back into Nairobi, where the legs started, we couldn't even go back to the hotel. We'd no time. So we actually slept on the footpaths outside Kenyatta buildings in the spills of rain. So we did, we finished and we won. And there were very few finishes that year. I think there were only something like 13 or something like that out of a few hundred. So that was very, very difficult.
When you became a full-time competitor in 1965, you stated in an interview that manufacturers saw rallying as a man's sport. Do you think that is the same now?
I think it's got to the stage that in those days there were men and women. Nowadays there are drivers, and it doesn't make any difference. Oh, I had a hard time when I started because I was basically told I was a dolly bird and all I was good for was to sit on the bonnet of a car and, flash my legs around the place. But they didn't expect me to win. And the only reason I was taken on was because Norman Garrett, who ran the Roots group at that stage, and the cars weren't really good enough or fast enough to win, so he thought if he could get this Irish dolly bird to go and drive, at least he'd get photographs even if he couldn't get wins. But he didn't sort of allow for the fact that I could win also, and that sort of shocked him. So, but then I started getting more respect and more respect. But I mean, nowadays they wouldn't dream to say to any of the girl drivers, oh, you're only a bird. You see, nowadays the girls would probably turn around and go boom. Whereas, I mean, we wouldn't have dreamt of doing it.
Did you enjoy beating the men at the time?
Did I enjoy it? Did I what? Yeah, of course. And they got to the stage that I was a driver, not just a bird. I was always called a bird. So, we come to the end of a special stage and we'd be comparing times, and I'd have beaten that one, or some of the ones were meant to be really good. And I'd say, yippee, No, they realised that I took it very seriously because, I mean, some of the events we did were 17,000 miles. That was London to Mexico City, and then London to Australia, to Sydney in Australia. That was 12,500 miles, and that was sort of day, night, day, night, day, night. And, we trundled on the whole way, and we got there.
Things were very different back in the 60s, and women were generally meant to be raising families. You broke the mould, so to speak. Were your family supportive?
My mum and dad were. My husband was not, and he would say things like, oh, you're on another ego trip, which was very hurtful because I was going out and I was making money, and, he had a nice life out of it, but he was always that slight little bit jealous, and I think that was the trouble. And also, when I got married, I wouldn't change my name, and then he started to be known as Mr. Smith, and that really was the end of it for him. So
You were a dress designer before you became a rally driver. Did it annoy you that the professor referred to you as Rosemary Smith, dress designer?
No, because that's what I was. I mean, that's what I started out because I was useless at school. And in the long run, my father being a Methodist, and we were all Protestant, Catholics, and the nuns called my father up one day and said to him that I was stupid. And my father took exception to this. What the nun actually meant to say, I was stupid because I wouldn't use my brains. Because I had no interest. I mean, I love geography, I love drawing, I love painting, I love, all these things that really weren't all that important in those days. So then when the nun said this to my father, he said, right, I'm taking her away, but I was only 15. And the only thing I had really any sort of, what would I say, that I knew how to do was dressmaking and dress designing. I was always, drawing pictures of dresses and all that sort of carry on. So when I left the school, I went to the Grafton Academy, which is one of our biggest dress design colleges in Dublin. And, it was interesting. I enjoyed it thoroughly, but I didn't want to do it for the rest of my life.
You were a keen go-karter in your young
Oh,
years.
yes.
Is that what motivated you to become a rally driver?
No, not at all. I enjoyed go-karting very much, and it was, my dad used to race, briefly, but very much as an amateur. He never had the money to go any further. And then my brother did a bit of racing, and my dad had a garage. So, we sort of grew up with cars. And my dad taught me to drive when I was 11, but that was in a field. But it got all, on the grass, slippering and sliding and doing all these things that, it stood to me in the long run because, you get onto snow and ice or very rough tracks or anything like this, and you need to know how to control a skid, come out of a skid, or else you spin right off or go into the ditch, one or the other. So
You competed in the Tulip Rally 2 years ago in the car you won in. How did that feel?
no, I competed in it, but not in the car I'd won in. That was a Hillman Imp I won in, and I was to use a Sunbeam Tiger. And at the last minute, the Sunbeam Tiger, it wasn't ready. And a man lent me another car, which was an MGB, and it hadn't been out on the road for 18 months. So I flew to Geneva, and the car came from London to Geneva, and it had no gears, it had no clutch, it had nothing and no power steering, and I had a broken collarbone at that stage, but I was going to do it regardless. And I only lasted sort of basically a day and a half, because the first special stage, which was out of Italy to go back across into France and so on, and then finish up back in Tulip Land, as I call it, in Holland. And but it just was dragging my arm out. I couldn't do it, and then it kept stopping. And when it stopped, it didn't want to start again. So between everything else, so that was the end of my Tulip Rally. I only wanted to do it because it was 50 years since I had won it, and I just thought it would be a great thing to do. But so I got to the end anyway, minus my navigator, because he was so disgusted he gave up and went home. Nice man, but or not very nice man, as the case may be. And but I went back. I got back to the end. Some of the marshals helped me to get back to the finish in Nordvik, where we'd finished the original Tulip Rally, and I drove over the ramp and I got my tulips and had photographs taken. So I was quite happy then.
In May this year, you were the oldest lady in the world to drive a Formula One car. How did that feel?
Well, I wasn't the oldest lady, actually. I was the oldest person. No men or women. And this all came about because I'm ambassador for Renault Clio here, as you can see my little car outside. And I had met one of the, I think he was a big director or something. He was French anyway, because Renault, as you know, is a French company. And I don't know, we were just sort of chatting away at this dinner, and he said something about driving cars. I said, oh yeah, I still do it, blah, 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 blah. And the next thing, the headman here in Ireland, he rang me up and he said, would you like to drive a Formula One car? Yeah, sure, why not? So that's how that came about. And I never thought any more about it. I mean, a car is a car is a car, whether it's Formula One or whatever it might be. But it was only, I went out, a friend of mine came out with me. They said, you can bring a friend if you want to. And Pauline, who was my co-driver for many, many years, she was flown out unbeknownst to me. So my friend June came out, she flew out from Dublin with me. And I got in, I was fitted in the car and one thing and another. It's an odd feeling though. The only thing I could think of was nearly like going down a submarine. And they kept saying, go down further, go down further, go down further. And I have very long legs. And, you know, I just thought, I said to one of the mechanics, I said, if I go any further, my feet will be out through the nose of the car. It was that low down. But then I went around, somebody, one of the mechanic lads, he drove me around the track in an ordinary, a Renault of course, and we did about 4 or 5 laps just so I could get familiar with it. And then I went out in Formula Renault, and then I went out of the Formula One. So, but the thing is, they had the paddles behind the steering wheel, which I had never driven. And, you know, it was up one side and down the other side, and, you know, and I said, oh, what do I do next? But, yeah, it was interesting. I would have liked to have had a few more days to have a real practice, that I would have been more comfortable with it, but I really wasn't. And then anyway, you know, we finished, and Jolyon Palmer was there, the Formula One driver, who's an absolute sweetheart, a real sweetheart. And he was so kind and so good, and he knew I was nervous. Of course I was nervous. I mean, I'd be stupid to say I wasn't. That would just mean that, you know, this is, you know, I've no sense of anything. But if I hadn't been nervous, I would have been worried.
People generally consider rallying in motorsport as dangerous, yet you've campaigned to make young drivers safer through your motor school. Do you think this would also benefit them towards being motorsport competitors?
No, not really. No, because all I'm trying to do is to get you, young people, when you come of age, to have some practice beforehand, some experience, that somebody's going to explain all the rules of the road, what can happen, what can't happen. And I say to the class, because we have classes down there of up to 30 a day, and I just say to them, you know, a car is basically a coffin on wheels. And it's not the car's fault if it hits a wall, or it's not the car, or very, very, very seldom in this day and age that something has broken on it. But mostly it's the driver's fault. And if the driver doesn't have the greatest regard for that car, he's stupid, or she's stupid. So that's why I started the school, because my sister, who lived in America all her married life, her children all went to driver's ed and driver's education. And I saw it over there and I thought, brilliant, why not do it here? Now they do it at some of the race circuits I know over in England, but I'm still not sure whether they do it for road drivers or whether they're doing it for racing drivers. But I wouldn't have, you know, my students. No, it wouldn't be. I try to get them away from this thing of speed, speed, speed. You can't just say to a youngster, yeah, there you are, now you've got your license and you've got whatever you have, your provisional and so on. Now you can go out on the road. No. It's all very well, you know, but you've got to have an awful lot, and you've got to have a very understanding mom or dad that will take you out and always be with you. And that's the thing, until you are more experienced. And we teach them things like, you know, be careful of the rules of the road. You know, if you're in the overtaking lane, once you've passed something, pull straight in again. Use your mirrors, use your indicators. I don't know how it is in England. Well, I do. I'm there, quite often. But, I feel that the English drivers, their test is more, it's more severe. It's a better test. It goes on longer, and they do an observation test. An observation is very important. If you don't watch everything, and that is the road signs, the road markings, they're there for one reason, and that's to keep everybody safe.
I have to ask, what is your secret to remaining active for so long?
I don't know. I have absolutely no idea, except I've had to look after myself for so long. My marriage broke up. I don't have a family. So, I just had to. And I'm glad. I would hate to be, an old, really old sort of doddery person. And, people, even when I was rallying, and that's going back a long time, they'd say to me, but why do you dress up? Why do you have your makeup on? Why do you have your nails done? Because that's me. That goes back to my dress designing days and my modelling days. And, I'm lucky that I have whatever genes that I have, that I'm still like this. And I'll go on as long as I can.
Thank you for your time.
You're very welcome.